So once again, I've just knocked everything off my table. Welcome back to my channel, and this is the finale for the Color Me Reading Challenge created by Samantha from Makeup Mania and More, previously known as Samantha Pans, and myself, based on the Monochromatic Year by Callie Fab. I'll have all of that information linked down below in the description, as well as everyone else who joined in with us in 2021. So the premise of this project, I'll put up the little textile, the little graphic that Samantha created on the screen now. And as you can see, each month had a color corresponding with it. And the aim was to read books that somehow match that color during that month. So we have got 2 months left to discuss, which are November and December. Over those 2 months, I have managed to read 9 books. So the color for November was green, and I am sorry if you can hear any noises coming from out there, but it is New Year's Eve and my neighbors are taking advantage of that. So let us go through with November. November, the color was green, and I was able to read 7 books. First up, I read Adventures in Opting Out, a field guide to leading an intentional life. This was by Kate Flanders, and I did listen to it via audiobook, and it was narrated by Kate herself. And I did enjoy the book, but I didn't enjoy it as much as her first book, which I read, I think, either last year. I read it last year, maybe in December last year, 2020, but it was the Spend Less Year book that she read. I will put up in the cards the video that I specifically discussed that book. So I didn't enjoy it as much as I did that one. In this one, she discusses about how she went to, how she quit her traditional life and become a traveler, wanted to travel rather than have a set house that she lived in. I would be interested in actually hearing this book come out during, I think this book come out in late 2020 to early 2021, but I would actually be interested because all of it happened back in about 2019. I'd be interesting to hear how she handled the pandemic, especially with having she decided to quit her traditional way of living, sold all her stuff except for a few different things, and decided to live in different locations. So she traveled to the UK and she stayed in different locations and lived there and worked there because she did have a job that she could work from home for, which I think is something that would be very handy coming into the pandemic. But I'd be interested to know if she continued to live such a lifestyle once the pandemic started, or if she just moved back in with her dad, which was one of the options, is that she could move back in with her dad if she was needed a break or was having troubles, etc. Her dad was willing for her to move back in and she would pay rent, etc. But anyway, that is completely off target and in a tangent, because I would be interested in reading a book that's set in pandemic times in relation to such a story. But she discusses in her book about the first time she went and how she hadn't planned enough, and then she had to come back to America, but then on additional planning, etc., and opting out of different things, she was able to go back again. In saying that, I found that the story, I'm assuming because she was opting out of a traditional way of living, is why it was about the opting out, a field guide about this concept of opting out, because the book itself seems to be trying to answer the question of whether you lost friends and lost people along the journey, which she kind of relates to back in the last chapter. But before then, the book itself doesn't seem to answer that question, though she poses that question as one of the main reasons for the book existing. So I think that the book itself does discuss a field guide to opting out, because she's opting out of traditional living, but it doesn't answer its own question in relation. It does, but it doesn't, if that makes sense. It's a question that could be, you know, this long, and then they've turned it into a book which is like this long. So I did enjoy the book. I enjoyed listening to her experiences in regards to opting out and going and traveling, as that's something I would personally myself like to do. I don't currently have a job that would allow for such a transient lifestyle, but I would in the future like to live such a transient, movable lifestyle based on travel and movement. But unfortunately, currently I can't. So it was interesting in that aspect. But like I said, I personally preferred her first book about her spendless year. However, if she does choose to write additional books in the future, she is definitely an author that I would like to read more of. Next, we have Mine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a horror book. It's probably more of a young adult horror than an adult horror, and it's more of a mind, I guess, a thriller rather than a horror. Definitely more based in the mental experience of it. But this story follows a young girl who has recently moved to California. Yes, I think California. Has moved to California with her family after an incident that occurred back in her hometown of Colorado. And she is already not doing too well. Her and her family, because of this incident, have quite a strained relationship. And then the house that they purchase and move into is, lo and behold, a creepy haunted house. Haunted by a young girl who has attached herself to the main character. Yes, this is a ghost story, but I do think that the tale itself and the situations that the main character are getting herself into are a commentary on her inner struggles, dealing with her own issues and things that have happened in her past, and kind of rebuilding herself into not a new person, but after a devastating incident, rebuilding herself into a better person, I guess, or somebody who has overcome such an experience. I'm trying not to give too much away while still, because that's one of the main plot points, is it takes you quite a long time into the book before you actually discover why they moved to California and what actually happened that caused all this inner turmoil between her and her parents. Overall, I did enjoy the book, and I will be looking into more by Dawson. I don't normally read horror, but I did enjoy this one. And the next book I read seems to kind of contradict my statement that I don't normally read horror, but I also read It Was a Dark and Creepy Night. Real life encounters with the strange, mysterious, and downright terrifying. This was by Joshua P. Warren, and though I don't read horror fiction in the regular sense, I do have a tendency to get scared quite easily, I guess is the correct term. I do like reading about real life encounters with the mysterious or the paranormal. That is probably why I don't like horror. I especially do not like paranormal horror, because I personally am a believer and have had my own experiences. So paranormal horror kind of makes me even extra scared, because I personally believe that there are ghosts in this world. So paranormal horror gives a really dark twist to that, and that is extra scary for me. So that is probably why I don't personally like it. But I do like reading about real life experiences. I don't necessarily believe that every experience that somebody saw or felt or had within this particular book are true. It could be, as the author gained the stories from people, they could be lying. He even says that himself, that they could be making this up. However, he has no reason to believe that they are lying to him, so he has taken them on their word. But also, sometimes what you experience or you see might not necessarily always be what's actually happening. There are two sides of every story, and there are two sides to every experience. So what I'm seeing might not actually be what necessarily is happening. So though I also believe that at times things aren't always what they seem, in the opposite way, that things could be a lot more normal than you think they are, if that makes sense. That was a big tangent. But anyway, I read that book, and I am interested because I think Joshua P. Warren has written some other books, and I'm interested to read the other books that he's read. The other books that he has written. It was a very easy read, and the chapters themselves, because they are kind of short story style versions of what has happened, their experiences, so it was quite easy to read it in short bursts. So I would read one or two stories here, one or two stories there, and I could fit it in amongst everything else that was going on heading into the end of November, start of December. So if you are interested in real life experiences such as this, I would recommend giving that book a read. Then I also read Simply Clean, The Proven Method for Keeping Your Home Organized. This one was by Becky Rapinchuk. I apologize for my butchering of names once again. But I did listen to this one by audiobook. And I have read a few cleaning / organizing / decluttering books over the last 12 months. And this one was personally not one of my favorites. I have heard the ideas presented within it a few times before in the past. So I would say that overall I didn't receive anything new from the idea. But also I think that this is a book that works well for someone who doesn't have stuff issues, who isn't someone living in a house with too much stuff, or cleaning is almost not really easy because you've got so much. It's more designed for the everyday person who has the regular amount of stuff, who is just trying to keep up with their cleaning and trying to find ways to make that ability more organized. I think this would work great for any new mums or any people who have gone from one type of situation where they had a really good structure / system that worked for them, and then something has happened or occurred, new job, new baby, new boyfriend, new husband, new wife, new grandparents living with you, the type of situation that has then changed the structure, and you're looking at another way to make cleaning easier when the situation is not as it was before. But for somebody like me who has problems with hoarding, I guess is probably the correct term, though hoarding does sound very negative, so I guess collecting of stuff is a better way to say it that doesn't have such a negative connotation. But those who have need to do more decluttering to ensure that cleaning is an easier ability, it isn't really, I guess, written for the me. Then I actually read the 4 Heartstopper volumes. So the first 3, Heartstopper Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3, all of these are by Alice Osman. I read those in November for the color green. And the story follows 2 young boys who have met each other and start off as friends in, say, the first book, and then slowly into the second book they start to realize that they have feelings for each other. One of them, Charlie, is gay. He is already gay from the beginning of the book. That sounds silly. They're always gay. Has come out, not consensually, I guess is the correct way of saying that, but he has come out and is aware of his personal feelings that he is gay at the start of the series. So we have him coming out and basically being himself. And then you have the other character whose name I cannot remember at this current point, and that is embarrassing. I'll put it up here on the screen. He is bisexual, yet he has not yet come to that conclusion. I think he doesn't come to that conclusion until about the third book, but it is the development of their young love relationship. So the characters are about 16, 17. I think when they start off they're about 15, 16, and by the last book they are 16, 17. I do enjoy the book so far. I've become quite invested. It is, I think, based on a web comic. And it is technically, I think, a teen graphic novel, but I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's interested in graphic novels, especially the, I guess, drama, high school love drama style ones. So moving into December, and the color was purple. I've only managed to read 2 books. Like I said, the first book I managed to read was Heartstopper Volume 4. This was also by Alice Osman, and this one actually focuses a lot more on Charlie, who has developed an eating disorder. It is hinted at as you go along through the first 3 books, but the 4th volume really focuses and delves into his eating disorder and him seeking help for it, and also how that does affect his relationship with his boyfriend, whose name I still can't remember. So once again, it will come up here on the screen, and I am looking forward to volume 5, which has not yet been released. Then I read Punch the Air, and this is by, I'm going to butcher this name and I apologize, Ibi Zobi. Yes, that was a terrible butchering of the name, and I do apologize for that. But this story follows a young man who is arrested and goes to jail for a crime that he did commit some of the crime, but he didn't commit the main part of the crime. I guess it's a very interesting story because he is both guilty for some aspects, but he is not guilty for the main aspect that he has gone to jail for. The crime associated within the story involves 2 groups of friends. One is a group of white guys and one is a group of black guys, and basically it ends up in a fight. The main person from the white gang, he is injured and put into a coma, and the main character ends up going to jail for the crime. So they are in juvenile detention. So a lot of the story does touch on that idea of being wrongly accused, wrongly found guilty, being wrongly punished for a crime that they didn't commit purely because of their skin color and culture. And also how they're treated within the jail or the juvenile penal system. And at times I did find myself getting a bit lost in what was happening, because it is written kind of in a stream of consciousness style, where the main character is experiencing and feeling everything, and you are kind of living the story through his feelings. I will say there are times where I have thought for the main character he gets very angry and has a lot of issues with anger. And sometimes I just think, oh, no, don't do that. You're going to make this situation so much worse for yourself. And he does. But at the same time, I can understand where a lot of his anger comes from. The story doesn't necessarily have a happy ending. It has a very hopeful ending, which is good, but I think that it couldn't be finished up with a nice little bow and a happy ending, because that is not the reality of those situations. So I definitely did enjoy the book, and I would 100% recommend it to everyone just to give it a read. Not only is the content of the book very interesting, but the writing style itself is very well done and slightly different to some of the writing styles that you probably, that I personally am used to reading. So that is it for the last 12 months. That is the end of my Colour Me Reading challenge for 2021. So I have managed to read 47 books in 2021. I originally had a goal of reading 24, which is 2 books a month, and I definitely blew that initial goal out of the water, which I am very, very proud of. Now, in regards to Colour Me Reading, I guess now is the time to announce that Colour Me Reading will be coming back for 2022. However, we are changing up the structure. So instead of having 1 colour per month that you have to read in, we are going to be providing a list of 24 colours, and you can read anytime. It doesn't have to be within a specific month, but as long as over the 12 months you read a book that matches that color, you can tick it off the list. So it provides both structure but flexibility for anyone who's interested in reading in different ways, because I do think that I found that this year, where in 2020 I found having a color to be quite liberating. It made it quite easier for me to decide what I was going to read and really get into reading. But now I'm into that bandwagon and I'm setting time aside for myself to read. As you can see, considering that I've added another probably 10 or so books onto the amount that I was able to read in 2020, I found that the monthly colors to be actually a bit restricting, because I would be reading in a series and I would finish a book and I would want to move on to the next book in said series, but it didn't match the color of the next month or even the month that I was reading in. So that did create a bit of issue, I guess, for my personal reading style. It also meant that the book clubs I was in, because I only wanted to read any book that matched that month, I didn't want to have some books that I read for this challenge and some that matched others. I wanted only the books that I read to meet my challenge. I found that quite difficult when it came to the book clubs I was in, because I didn't necessarily match the month. And also it limited the amount of other challenges or reading projects that I could undertake. So those are reasons why Samantha and I myself have updated and altered the program, the challenge going forward. And also it kind of takes it away a bit from the idea of the monochromatic year created by Cali Fab, which is what this challenge was originally based on. So there will be an updated version of this challenge for 2022. If you are interested in joining in on the challenge, please let me know down in the comments or private message me via Instagram and I will add you into our Colour Me Reading chat group. Now, with that all said and done, and I have got a lot of editing for this video, I'm Verity. That was the finale for the Colour Me Reading challenge that was created by Samantha and myself. And now to the outro.